Hey everyone, Clint here with Chloe. 7 years ago, Chloe got blastomycosis up here in northern Wisconsin, and we almost lost her, probably within 12 to 24 hours of losing her. So today I want to talk about blastomycosis, what it is, how to spot it, and what we did to help save her life, and hopefully this video saves another dog's life out there as well. A little disclaimer, folks. Everything I'm going to talk about today is essentially going to be in regards to what we did for Chloe and essentially our veterinarian's recommendations at the time for the medications, all right? Now, this little video is just to basically say what we did. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're supposed to do, all right? So take your veterinarian's advice in regards to your own dog and their own conditions, because they can be a little bit different than what we had. As a matter of fact, this component of blastomycosis with Chloe happened several years ago, and medications may even have changed since then, and the procedures that veterinarians take may have changed as well, all right? Because I want the best care for your dog, all right? So this is just a story of what happened to Chloe in regards to blastomycosis and how we got through it. So how did Chloe get blasto in the first place? Well, I kind of take partial blame to that. Chloe comes with me fishing all the time, so several years ago, before she got blasto, she essentially would hop in the truck with me. We go out to one of the area lakes up here in northern Wisconsin. I'd let her out while I'm putting the boat in the water and getting stuff ready. She would jump in, swim a little bit, and then when it was time to go fishing, she'd hop back into the boat. So with that being said, she picked up blastomycosis, which we're pretty sure of, up here in northern Wisconsin, because the incubation period is 6 weeks, and her symptoms were first shown 6 weeks after our trip up here in northern Wisconsin. So the symptoms actually shown on another northern Wisconsin fishing trip that I was on, and what I noticed is that she was very lethargic. Normally I could throw a ball for her in the water, she'd go chase that ball, bring it back, and she could do this for hours in the water. And she got very lethargic. She'd maybe go after the ball once or twice, and you could just see something wasn't right with her. Then she started to develop this particular cough. And it wasn't your normal cough. It would be just a constant cough throughout the day. And something just didn't seem right with her. So I had my wife take Chloe into the vet and have her looked over. And I told my wife to tell the vet to say, hey, we were up in northern Wisconsin. It just seems about right, that incubation period of 6 weeks of blasto. I said, please have them check for blasto. Well, this veterinarian decided that she didn't need to check for blasto, that it was simply some type of pneumonia or whatever she had going on, and she just gave her an antibiotic for it, okay? So about a week later, Chloe got extremely sick. She actually just fell on the ground. She couldn't even get herself up. She basically looked like she was dead. Her eyes were open. She was barely breathing. And then the telltale sign that she had blasto was that she developed these huge pussy sores about the size of a golf ball, and those started to show up on her body. And as the blasto progressed, they really showed up, and they were ugly. They were something that you wouldn't ever want to see on a dog or a person ever in your life, right? And you could bust open these big pussy sores, and it essentially was oozing all of this yellow fluid out of it. So then at that time, I was not very happy with this particular vet, and I'm going to try to keep myself respectful in this video. But anyways, we took her back in. I had to carry Chloe in, just literally carry her like she was dead. And I came to that front door, and I saw the vet there, and I said, I want her checked for blasto immediately. Finally, the vet then decided, okay, we can do that. At the same time, I said, I also want to see the x-rays, because she did have x-rays prior to that, and said her lungs looked good. I have a background as a chiropractic x-ray tech, so I've taken x-rays and I've looked at x-rays. When she popped up the x-ray of Chloe, or her lungs, Chloe's lungs, I could see the striations in it. And how this vet could not see that, that really got me heated at that time as well. And that vet knew it. That vet knew she was wrong. First, I told her, please have her tested for blasto the first time, and then second, she took the x-ray and she didn't see what I could see until I pointed out to her, and maybe she did see it and she just bypassed it as nothing, who knows. So anyways, Chloe was basically about ready to die at that point. So what ended up happening was the veterinarian, to find out at this particular vet clinic, they did have some of this medication for her to start for the blastomycosis. And it was donated by somebody else who lost their dog to blastomycosis. So it's essentially 3 strikes now that I had on this vet that they actually had this medication sitting there. And then when I asked about the particular medication for her, somebody spoke up in the background that says, hey, we already have some donated medication in the back. So as you can tell, I was not very happy at that point. And then almost losing Chloe on top of it. So my next step then was to do as much research as I possibly could to see what we can do to save her life. So in Eagle River, Wisconsin, there was a veterinarian up here, and she's now retired. But at the time, she was the blastomycosis guru for veterinarians. She knew everything about it. So I just called her. She didn't know me from anybody, and I was willing to pay her whatever she wanted for her advice. And she gave the best advice ever as far as the treatment, what to expect, the drugs that she would put her on, the whole 9 yards. She was so extremely helpful. It was unreal. And so what we did then next is we found out the drugs that this particular vet recommended, and then we proceeded to get Chloe on these particular medications. So the medication that the vet prescribed was fluconazole. Now, fluconazole is a medication that a lot of women go on if they have a yeast infection. And women, you might know more about this than I do, okay? But here's the interesting part. I think women might take this medication once or twice or whatever it might be to clean up a yeast infection. Chloe, how bad this blastomycosis was from a fungal infection, because that's what blastomycosis is. It's a fungus. And they had to knock that out. She had to take that medication every single day for 15 months. And here's the hard part, that the medication is not cheap. It's actually quite expensive. Now, I'm not going to quote prices because I know prices have changed since 7 or 8 years ago. But we found a place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin called the Pet Apothecary. And the Pet Apothecary carried this medication for 75% less than you could get this particular medication at a veterinary clinic or at Walmart or wherever else that you could find it, pharmacy. So we decided to go that route for the medication. I believe the medication was roughly about $150 a month. Now, remember, this is 7 to 8 years ago, where if we had to buy it from a pharmacy, it would have been about $500 to $700 a month. So it was much easier to go this route for medication purpose, because with the price that it would be at, and yes, we love our pets, and I love Chloe more than anything, all right, but it's sometimes it's kind of hard to fork over that kind of money, for a pet. But we were going to do whatever we could to help keep her alive. What is blastomycosis? Blastomycosis is a fungus, and this particular fungus is found in the ground, and it's usually found in these wetland areas, especially where it's mucky. You get that peat. And essentially what it is, it's rotting ground or rotting vegetation in the ground along a lake or a river. And what happens is that when these lakes tend to recede a little bit, okay, let's say low water levels, areas that were underwater are pulled back now, and that rotting vegetation that's been underwater for a long period of time, air comes into it, it helps rot it, and that's what creates that fungus. But where you're going to see it prevalent is in the lakes that have that mucky black bottom, usually those lily pads. It's dark. Those are the lakes that tend to be more prevalent with blastomycosis. Now, I still take Chloe and I'll still take Lily to the lake, swimming, so on and so forth. I don't want folks to be afraid of that. But whenever I take them to those sandy, clear lakes, okay? So sandy bottom or a little bit of gravel bottom. Those particular lakes, even if they recede a little bit, it's just sand. The fungus usually does not grow in that sand. It's in those mucky bottoms. Now, here in Wisconsin, it also is very prevalent actually in streams. So streams are more prevalent to fluctuating water levels than lakes per se. And when the stream goes down, essentially meaning recedes, okay, once again, those mucky shorelines are then revealed, and then that fungus is right there. Now, the other problem with pets, or dogs in this case, dogs are built low to the ground, and they're always digging, messing around in the mud. So their nose is right there. Their nose is literally within inches, if sometimes not in the mud, if they smell something, and that fungus is right there to get into their lungs. Now, the only thing that you have to be aware of as well is that people also can get blastomycosis. And I didn't know these 3 people personally, but I'm aware of 3 people here, at least in Wisconsin, that got blastomycosis and actually died from it. 2 of the people were misdiagnosed in the beginning. The other person, by the time they caught on it, had other underlying health issues, and they ended up passing away from that. But one individual was a 17-year-old young man who was trout fishing, and he was walking up and down the rivers in these mucky bottom rivers, and apparently caught blastomycosis from that. Now, I don't want to scare anybody from trout fishing, and I don't want to scare anybody from kayaking or getting near these particular areas. There are a lot of areas that are safe, but as humans, we're a little taller, we're a little further off from the ground, so it's a little bit harder for us to get those spores, those fungus spores from the ground, to come up into our respiratory system. So what have I done differently? Well, I still fish these lakes up in northern Wisconsin, and I still bring Chloe and Lily with me. Chloe's fairly old now, at 14 and a half years old, so for her, just sitting back at the cabin is a little bit more of a treat for her than coming fishing now. But I still take Lily with me, and whenever I take Lily with me, or Chloe, I always make sure that I have them on a leash, okay? So whenever I put that boat in the water, they stay in the vehicle, and then I'll attach the leash to them. We walk directly from the vehicle to the boat. They're no longer allowed to play on the water's edge, at least the lakes that I fish. They go in the boat, and then when I dock the boat, same thing, the leash goes back on them, and then I walk them back to the boat. And yes, they get their swim time, but we just go to these, we'll call them cleaner lakes with the sandy bottoms that I take them to. And ever since I've been taking them, Lily's never gotten blasto, and Chloe's been great ever since. So how is Chloe doing today? Well, as I mentioned earlier, Chloe is 14 and a half years old. I think she's doing actually fairly great for her age. She's actually laying right down by a big old pine tree over there in the grass, just enjoying the sunshine here and the cooler temps. We're at 72 degrees today, so it's a beautiful day out. And she's doing wonderful, and she kept up her end of the bargain. My wife and myself, we mentioned to her, Chloe, if you pull through, we're gonna do everything on our end to keep you alive, no matter how much it costs, all right? And she came through on her end, and we came through on our end. Well, Chloe is just eating up this attention, as well as sitting down by the lake here. It's just a beautiful day here up here in northern Wisconsin. So we're gonna chill out here for a little bit longer, and then we're gonna head out and do a little fishing later tonight. And we're also gonna stay away from the blasto. Until next time, Chloe, Lily, and myself from Oak and Iron Outdoors.